Slot 1 was the toughest slot that we had in CAT 22, and still there were a couple of relatively easier RCs which you had to find and solve. And if you feel that this is the part that you're struggling with, you want to work on your test taking strategy, maybe your marks are fluctuating, or maybe you feel that your marks are not at the level that it should be based on your prep, then you can sign up for a mock pack where you will have 25 mocks, 45 CAT style sectionals, and you will also have a live test taking strategy session for each mock where you can interact with Vignesh and me, and you can get our guidance to boost your strategy and to even craft a personalized strategy for you, which will help you to enhance your marks in CAT 24. And in case if you want to go the whole hog and you want to prepare, you want access to video lessons, live classes, mentorship and guidance, one-on-one sessions, and so on, then if you're preparing for CAT 2024, then you can sign up for the crash course. It's actually priced extremely affordably, as is the MBA Unlimited pack for CAT 2025, which you could start off right away and make sure that you get a high percentile and you get into a top B score. As always, just make sure that you've solved this RC first. It should be to your left. Or if you're watching it on YouTube, then I will have the link for you in the description and in the first pinned comment. There are a couple of what I call meaning questions, which despite the name are not actually vocabulary questions. So we will have those open and we will try to solve them while reading. Just make sure that you've gone through different types of questions, because if you go through that, you look at the way I'm recommending that you solve and you practice it over 5 to 10 RCs, that should boost both your accuracy and your solving speed. And now let's start with the passage itself. Stories concerning the undead have always been with us. Undead, somebody or something that is not dying. A lot of the times, this word is commonly used to signify something ghostly, right? Something which is not human. And that's something which we can figure out also as we read. From out of the primal darkness of mankind's earliest years, come whispers of eerie creatures, not quite alive, yet not quite dead either. Not quite alive, or alive in a way in which we can understand. So there are these eerie creatures, or there are whispers, there is talk of these eerie creatures who are not exactly alive or not exactly dead. And this is something which has been happening from our earliest years, right? So from the beginning of humans, there have been discussions, or there have been talks, whispered talks of these undead creatures that are not alive or not dead. These may have been ancient and primitive deities who dwelt deep in the surrounding forests and in remote places, or simply those deceased who refused to remain in their tombs and who wandered about the countryside, physically tormenting and frightening those who were still alive. So there's two types of undead which could be there. One could be godly, right? One could be these ancient deities, or there could also be people who have died, but they refuse to be dead, essentially, right? They were wandering about. So at this point, of course, we know that this is right here. The sentence is right here. So let's finish reading this paragraph and then we will take a stab at this question. Mostly they were ill-defined. So these undead, they were of two types. They were either, deities, or the people who are dead who refuse to die. But mostly they were ill-defined. Strange sounds in the night beyond the comforting glow of the fire, or a shape half glimpsed in the twilight along the edge of an encampment. They were vague and indistinct, but they were always there with the power to terrify and disturb. So they were terrifying and disturbing humans always. They had the power to touch the minds of our early ancestors and fill them with dread. Pretty similar, it's frightening them. Such fear formed the basis of the earliest tales, although the source and exact nature of such terror still remain very vague. So what have we learned? Long back, right, in the beginning of human existence, people were talking about these eerie creatures which were undead. They were not quite alive and they were not quite dead. Now we have few more details. They could either be deities or they could be humans who were dead but they refused to die. But the common thing which is there is they are terrifying and disturbing our ancestors. So they are frightening, or the discussion is frightening our ancestors, ancient humans. We don't need to believe in ghosts or anything like that, but what we can understand is that this discussion or talking about these undead definitely frightened our ancestors. Now coming to this question, it's a meaning question. We have a sentence given from the passage and we have to infer and understand the meaning. It will be a little metaphorical. We don't need to take it literally, but we need to understand the meaning in the context of the passage. This paragraph itself is sufficient. We've already understood this sentence. Now we need to find out which of the following observations is a valid conclusion to draw from this statement. So we've understood that, in the earliest when the earliest humans were living, they used to whisper, they used to talk about these eerie undead creatures. Eerie is something which is, paranormal, something which is frightening, So we will look for something which is a suitable conclusion from this sentence. Long ago, eerie creatures used to whisper in the primal darkness that they were not quite dead. So it's not the eerie creatures that used to whisper. From mankind's earliest years come whispers of eerie creatures. So it has to be humans that are whispering about these eerie creatures. So this is wrong. So let's read on. Mankind's earliest years were marked by a belief in the existence of eerie creatures that were neither quite alive nor dead. This definitely is a valid conclusion, and since the question is which of the following is a valid conclusion, we can safely say that this is the right answer, because this is exactly what we are learning, right? So in mankind's early years also, there were these whispers, or there were these whispered talks about eerie creatures that were undead, and that's exactly what is mentioned here. Instead of whisper, they've spoken about a belief in the existence, which is fine, right? They did believe in them. You and I might not believe in them, but they did believe in them, and they were quite scared of them, right? So this is something which we can conclude. Let's look at the other two options. We can understand the lives of the eerie creatures in mankind's early years through their whispers in the darkness. Again, their whisper seems to suggest the whispers of the eerie creatures, and that is not what is being told. We also don't know whether we can understand it or not. I mean, it's something which, we don't need to take literally. We don't need to believe that, they were actually undead. So we can eliminate this option as well. And last one, mankind's primal years were marked by creatures alive with eerie whispers but seen only in the darkness. Again, creatures alive with eerie whispers is the part which is wrong. It was humans that were whispering about these creatures and not the creatures that were whispering themselves. So if you see, there's a common theme in a lot of the wrong answers where we have to look at it a little bit from a grammatical perspective, right? From out of the primal darkness of mankind's earliest years come whispers of eerie creatures, right? So a lot of times in quant, we understand the meaning of, but it's of course important in verbal as well. Whispers of eerie creatures, right? So you have to ask yourself, who's whispering? Is it the eerie creatures that are whispering? No, it's actually humans that are whispering of these creatures. Even if you're not fully sure of that part, if you look at the options, this is something which it stands out as, you can conclude it, right? They did believe in their existence. So you can still go for the second option. And that's something which I definitely recommend. I keep telling you in class, if you are torn between two options, and that's after reading the passage and understanding it well, you should definitely go for it. Don't hesitate. We will never be 100% sure in verbal. But say there's a couple of questions where you are stuck between two options. Say you get this one and you get a +3, but the other one maybe you make a mistake and you get wrong. Net, you are still at 2 marks. So which is why I would recommend it. I don't recommend it if you've skimmed the passage, if you haven't done a focus read, or if you don't understand the question at all. But sometimes if you don't understand an option, or there's a small part which you're confused, or maybe you're stuck between two options, then you can give it a shot. But make sure that you are doing a focus read. That I would say is the most important module in my lessons. So early humans, they did talk about the undead. There are a couple of characteristics that we know. They were ill-defined, or I can just put it as vague, and they were scary, right? They did scare humans. They terrified and disturbed them. Since we have a couple of meaning questions and a couple of inferential questions, you could choose to avoid taking notes. I tend to do it because it helps me focus, and I read fast enough that even with notes I can manage and I can finish the slot. But in case if your reading speed is really slow, or notes don't tend to work for you, which is something which you figure out after practicing quite a bit, then you can avoid it. This is definitely an RC where notes are not necessary. Maybe it helps us in the second question to help us understand what the passage is about, but you could do without them. So now let's read on. And as mankind became more sophisticated, leaving the gloom of their caves and forming themselves into recognizable communities, towns, cities, whole cultures, so the undead traveled with them, inhabiting their folklore just as they had in former times. So it's not that only the ancient, humans spoke about the undead. Even when we started living in towns, cities and all, the undead traveled with them, right? So what does that mean? It is not that literally, they sat in their carts and their horses and they traveled with them. What it means is they still started speaking about it. So if you see, a lot of the writing is a little bit metaphorical or a little bit symbolic, right? So you don't need to take it literally. What you have to understand is, this is the part, right? The undead continue to be there in people's stories. So even as humans became more sophisticated, so I'll just put it as later, we continue to have the undead. And then there are certain more things which we know. Now they began to take on more definite shape. So this is something which is changed. They've gone on from being vague to being more definite. They became walking cadavers, the physical embodiment of former deities, and things which had existed alongside man since the creation. Some still remained vague and ill defined, but as mankind strove to explain the horror which it felt towards them, such creatures emerged more readily into the light. Now, this is a little confusing, right? First, we said they began to take on more definite shapes, and then we are being told that some still remain vague and ill defined. So, the word but, the first one which is there in my focus read module table, that helps us understand that this is the part which the author is focusing more on. You can also look at this, right? So some still remain vague. That means majority of it have more definite shapes, right? They emerge more readily into the light. Again, what does it mean? It doesn't mean they physically came out from the dark into, light. It's that they are more definite. We understand more. They are like walking cadavers. What are walking cadavers? Walking dead bodies, right? Or they could be former deities or things which have lived alongside man, as in other things which have been there. So later also we continued believing in the undead. The change which has happened is that they became more definite. I could have also probably made a table early humans and later humans, but that's fine, right? We can just note it down and let's read on. In order to confirm their abnormal status, many of the undead were often accorded attributes which defied the natural order of things. Now, this is of course important, so let's pay attention. In order to confirm their abnormal status, so to confirm the abnormal status, many of the undead were often accorded attributes. They were given attributes. Again, just look at the grammar, look at the meaning, right? They were given these attributes. These attributes, they defied the natural order of things. So what is happening? The undead are being given some of these attributes which are unnatural. Something that defies the natural is something which is unnatural, right? So the undead have been given these unnatural attributes to confirm that they are abnormal. Now, we also have examples of unnatural attributes. So that is something, let's say if you don't understand the word defied, it helps you understand that it's something which is going against the natural order of things. The power to transform themselves, the ability to sustain themselves by drinking human blood, the ability to influence human minds across a distance. Now, none of these are natural, right? You and I, we cannot take our shape. We don't drink human blood. We cannot influence someone from a distance. Now, of course, I mean, we're not thinking of technology or anything like that, but right now I could not influence somebody that's maybe 10 feet or 100 feet or 100 kilometers away from me. So these are all unnatural attributes, and these attributes were given to the undead. Who would have given it? Humans, right? So humans have sort of attached these unnatural abilities to them to confirm their abnormal status. Such powers only lend an added dimension to the terror that humans felt regarding them. So what has happened? Later, as they've become more definite, they have been given these unnatural abilities, right? They may or may not have it. In fact, like I said, we probably don't believe in this, right? But humans have given them these unnatural abilities to confirm their abnormal status. And that is something which has actually increased the fear. So it's not that when we move to cities, when we become more sophisticated, we are less afraid. No, if anything, we are even more afraid. So now that we've understood it, in the next paragraph is going in a different direction, let's try to solve this question. The same sentence is given here, which we've just been discussing. The question is, which one of the following best expresses the claim made in this statement? So we have to just look for something which is explaining this, and we've already understood that it was humans that gave the undead some of these unnatural abilities to make sure or to confirm their abnormal status. We're looking for something like that. The natural attributes of the undead were rendered abnormal by changing their status. This is close, but this is a little harsh, right? This is taking this part very literally and saying, hey, the undead are actually normal, but humans have given them, or humans have twisted their abilities and given them unnatural abilities to make sure that they are abnormal. So we could come back to this, but if there's something better, if there's something a little more straightforward, we'll go for that. The undead are deified in nature's order by giving them divine attributes. So here we have the word defied, and this is where you could make a silly mistake, right? If you've not come back and checked it, or if not read it properly, you might think, yeah, this is something which is given, but it's not. They are not being deified. To deify someone is to consider them to be a deity, to consider them to be a god, right? The undead are not being given divine attributes. They are being given unnatural attributes, right? Drinking blood, transforming, influencing others from a distance. These are not godly attributes, right? These are unnatural attributes. So when in doubt, just make sure to come back and check. Okay, we have defied here, we have deified here. Especially if you're not sure of the meaning, going back and checking, and this part, right, divine attributes, is something which should help you eliminate this option. human beings conceptualize the undead as possessing abnormal features. This is also good. I would say this is better than the first option. While the first option has this extra part that, we are doing this to consider them abnormal or to confirm their abnormal status, to say that we have changed their status or changed their attributes is a little harsh, as I was saying. So option 3 is preferable to option 1. So I can now eliminate option 1. But let me still compare 3 and 4. According the undead and abnormal status is to reject the natural order of things. So this has taken certain things from the passage, but the overall option does not make sense, right? The undead are given an abnormal status by giving them or unnatural abilities. We are not rejecting the natural order of things. It's these abilities which are going against the natural order. So this is a little bit of a hodgepodge with words from the passage, but the meaning is wrong. So we go for the third option. And this is exactly what happens in CAT, right? You might have an option which is not super appealing, right? But that's right because the entire thing is factually correct. A part of it is missed, right? So having abnormal features, how are they having abnormal features? By giving them these unnatural attributes. So that unnatural attributes part is not given. But if you see, it's definitely better than the first option, which is too harsh, and the second and the fourth options, which are not right. And that is how it is, right? The right answer is going to be made a little less appealing, and the wrong answers are going to be made more appealing, sometimes by using words from the passage, sometimes by having something which seems right, sometimes by just making small changes that you might not notice. If you're struggling with this, make sure that you go through the elimination modules. That is something which will really help you to make sure that if you are torn between a couple of options and you're choosing the wrong option, you can eliminate it using the techniques which I've noted and get to the right answer most or all of the time. And it was only natural too that the undead should become connected with the practice of magic. From very early times, shamans and witch doctors had claimed at least some power and control over the spirits of departed ancestors, and this has continued down into more civilized times. So they have always been connected with magic. From the early times, shamans and witch doctors have been saying, hey, we can control some of these spirits, and even in more civilized, even in more sophisticated times, this has continued. So throughout, the undead have been linked with magic. However, important word, the relationship between the magician and an undead creature was often a very tenuous and uncertain one. So it was a weak, uncertain one. Tenuous is where it is not a very strong connection or not a very strong link, right? So they were connected with magic, but magicians or with magical people like the witch doctors and shamans and all, that link was an uncertain, a weak link. Some sorcerers might even become undead entities once they died, but they might also have been susceptible to the powers of other magicians when they did, right? So it's an uncertain one. You could also have sorcerers, right? You could also have magicians who themselves became undead, and then they could be controlled by other magicians, right? From the Middle Ages and into the Age of Enlightenment, theories of the undead continue to grow and develop. So this Age of Enlightenment is probably, the more civilized, the more sophisticated age, which is the current ages, right? Or more modern ages at least. So from the Middle Ages, now Middle Ages, again, the medieval times, these are times which are, more in your 10th, 12th, 13th, 14th century and so on. So again, from the earliest to the Middle Ages to probably, the more modern time, theories of the undead have continued to grow and develop. So what does that mean? That means that even now people are theorizing about the undead. People are still talking about the undead. They still believe in the undead. Their names become more familiar: werewolf, vampire, ghoul, each one certain to strike fear into the hearts of ordinary humans. So now they've become more definite, right? So werewolf, vampire, ghoul, instead of, vague, scary ones, now they are more definite. We have these common names for them, which we all know, like all of us, right? We know what a werewolf is, what a vampire is, and so on. So the point the author is trying to make is, throughout, we have continued to believe in the undead. There have been theories. Initially, they were a certain way. Now they're a certain way. There are certain connections which are common. Things have changed. They've gone from being vague to being definite. But certain things which have not changed are the fear that we feel or continuing to talk about it. So the undead have sort of always stayed with us, in the sense they're always there in our minds. Again, don't take it literally. Don't think that, oh my God, there's a ghost around you or something. What the author is trying to say says that, people have always believed and have always spoken about the undead all the way till the modern ages. So now let's solve the remaining two questions. Which one of the following statements best describes what the passage is about? So this passage is of course about the undead, how humans consider them, from the early times till now. Like I was saying, there are some things which are common and some things which are different. But overall, we've been speaking about, people's theories of the undead from the ancient times till now. So let's look for something like that. The writer describes the ways in which the undead came to be associated with shamans and the practice of magic. I'm not happy with this. This is only a smaller part, right? So most likely this is not the right answer. Only if the other three options are all wrong will we go for this. This does happen sometimes in CAT, where it's a little bit of an unsatisfactory option that we are going for because we can eliminate the others. But typically you will have something which is the right answer, which is looking at the entire passage. A lot of times we also have questions like, which of the following describe the transition in the passage or something. Again, we are looking for something which is around the entire passage for those questions. The passage describes the failure of human beings to fully comprehend their environment. Nothing really mentioned about this. I could maybe infer that, okay, maybe initially they didn't understand the undead, or perhaps, the examiner feels the undead don't exist and this option is written from that perspective. But this is definitely not what the passage is about, so we can eliminate it. The passage discusses the evolution of theories of the undead from primitive thinking to the age of enlightenment. So from the early ancient times to the current ages. This is something which makes sense. Evolution of theories could be around, them going from being vague to being, well-defined. It's also something which is mentioned out here. Theories continue to grow and develop. So this is definitely preferable to the first option. So now we can eliminate the first option because it's about a smaller part. We'll look at option 4. And if it is better, we'll go for that. Otherwise, 3 will be the right answer. The writer discusses the transition from primitive thinking to the age of enlightenment. This is very general. Yes, we are talking about something from then to now, but that what we are talking about, the undead part itself is missed out. So we'll eliminate this and we'll go for the third option. Just make sure that you're not reading super fast and making a silly mistake here. And you're choosing 3, which is the right answer. This is a slightly trickier type of inferential question. Make sure that you've gone through my, type of questions lesson so that you understand all of these. But I'll just explain it here as well. This is a question type which has been coming in since CAT 2020. So it is expected to keep coming up in CAT. All of the following statements, if false, could be seen as being in accordance with the passage except, right? Now, whenever we have an inferential question which has if false instead of if true, it is complicating it by adding another layer. I have explained this in the different types of questions module, so make sure that you've gone through that. But I'll give you a brief explanation here because this question type has been there since CAT 2020, so it is expected to continue. When we have all of the following statements, if false, could be seen as being in accordance with the passage except, it adds another layer. So if you had something like which of the following statements, if false, is in accordance with the passage, then if I'm converting this option to false, is it in accordance with the passage? If yes, that becomes the right answer. If we are saying all of the following if false are in accordance with the passage except, that means 3 out of these 4 options are in accordance with the passage if they are converted to false. So we eliminate that. Whatever is left becomes the right answer. Because it is going to be complicated, time taking, potentially you could make silly mistakes while converting all statements to false. We will simplify it. So if you have something like if false, then it is in accordance with the passage or aligned to the passage, in line with the passage, you can make it. If true, it will go against the passage. So if the question was which of the following statements, if false, is in accordance with the passage, you just look for which option, if true, is going against the passage. You will have 1 or 2 options which, if true, are going against the passage. Just convert those to false, right? So you'll see how we convert these to false also. And then whichever one sentence, if false, is really in accordance or in line with the passage, that becomes the right answer. Here, because we are saying all of the following could be in accordance with the passage, we're going to find whichever statement, if true, is going against the passage, eliminated. Whichever, if true, in its current form is not against the passage, those 1 or 2 options we will convert to false and see if they are in accordance. If not, that becomes the right answer because we have the word except here. So looking at this, the growing sophistication of mankind meant that humans stopped believing in the undead. This is definitely something which, if it is true, it is against, because we know that humans are still believing in the undead. In fact, we are more and more afraid of them. The undead remained vague and ill-defined, even as mankind strove to understand the horror they inspired. This part is also wrong. We know that they have gone from being vague to being more definite. Their names have become more familiar. So this is also something which is going against the passage. The transition from the Middle Ages to the Age of Enlightenment saw new theories of the undead. This is something which is not going against the passage. We know that there have been new theories. In fact, we just solved the question where we said it's about the evolution of theories, right? So theories have continued to grow and develop. So this potentially could be the right answer. Let me hold it. The relationship between shamans and the undead was believed to be a strong and stable one. Again, something which is going against the passage, because we know that this was something which was tenuous and uncertain. Even if you are not sure of the meaning of tenuous, since it's uncertain, you know that it shouldn't be strong and stable. So 1, 2, and 4 we can eliminate. Now, if you want, you could also try to convert it to false and see. So if I try to convert this one to false, for instance, the growing sophistication of mankind meant that humans still believe in the undead. So this, you see, is in accordance with the passage, because even with humans becoming sophisticated, we are still believing in the undead. So you can try these out, and in case if you're watching this on YouTube and you don't understand one of the options, just put a question in the comments and we will help you out. If you're in the class, of course, you can just come off to any class and ask me doubts. But this one, let's definitely convert it to false. The transition from the Middle Ages to the Age of Enlightenment saw new theories of the undead. So how do I convert it into false? As we transition from the Middle Age to the Age of Enlightenment to the modern age, there were no new theories. We continued with the existing theories. Now that is something which we know is not in accordance with the passage, right? New theories continue to develop. So this definitely is the right answer, because if I'm converting into false, it is not in accordance with the passage. So that's it for this RC, and stay tuned, because tomorrow we'll be solving the next easy RC from this law.